What about now? Is it this? I think I'm seeing something. Is the broad? Like, tell us when the broadcast is live, and then
I think we're up.
It's up now. Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
You ever been on a road trip before?
Sure. Yeah.
Got any fun stories to tell?
Fun stories. I'm so glad you asked. It's nice to reframe a situation and make it fun. Mm-hmm. I've been on some fun road trips. I've been across this country. I've seen those purple mountains majesty.
You've been on Route 66?
The fruiting plain. No, I've never been on Route 66. You done that one?
I done Route 66.
When'd you do it?
It was a wedding road trip I did. We did Route 66, and then me and my live-in barber got married near the Grand Canyon. It was nice.
What did you see on Route 66?
We saw the Grand Canyon.
That's on Route 66? I thought that was all like kitschy hotels and...
We may have had to get off of Route 66 to see the Grand Canyon, but...
Okay, so I've been on Route 66, but I've never done Route 66. I think there's a difference. That's like a road trip unto itself.
We saw the Cadillac.
Like I've walked a portion of the Appalachian Trail, just incidentally, but I've never done the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ever been to Texas?
I've been to Texas. Route 66 runs through the Panhandle down there. I saw the Cadillac Ranch while I was there. That was fun.
That's cool.
Bunch of cars stuck in the dirt at a weird angle.
That's a natural phenomenon?
No, I think somebody did it.
Huh.
Somebody put it there, like Stonehenge.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Aliens.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I've been on a road trip with you once, actually. I don't know if
more than once. I should say.
We've been on a few road trips together. Cincinnati, that was fun. The Tokyo Drift road trip.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that one. I think the one that comes to mind is the Philly cheesesteak road trip. I think you and I had never had a Philly cheesesteak before.
Yeah, we decided to drive to Philadelphia, which was about a 30 from here. Well, from where we were then in Sheboygan. Mm-hmm. I think it was about a 20-some hour drive.
I remember being close to 30 there and back. 30 or 40 there and back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, did it all in one jump. Had never had a Philly cheesesteak before. Decided, let's go to Philadelphia and have a Philly cheesesteak. We arrived there around 6 or 7 at night. And this is before you could just look on your phone and find a restaurant that sold Philly cheesesteaks.
We didn't have smartphones.
We showed up in town.
We could have done research, but we didn't.
Restaurants were closing, and we went into a Barnes & Noble and asked the greeter if he could direct us toward a Philly cheesesteak. And we told him we were from the Midwest and we had just come out here for the hour just to get that. And we were driving back. And he was so in love with the fact that we came to his city.
Couldn't believe it.
Just to get a Philly cheesesteak. The man hugged all of us that were there with him. And then he sent us to a nice place down the road. And then we drove back and went insane. The main thing I remember from that story, though, is that we stopped at a toll booth on the way there, and as we were approaching it, this is a turnpike that we're on. We approached this toll booth, and as we're there, I'm driving, and I asked the car, do I have to pay now or do I pay after? And everyone in the car was like, yeah, of course you'll pay after. You're not going to pay now.
Right. You get the ticket and then you get off at some certain, depending on where you get off the turnpike, you owe a different amount. So you get on the turnpike, you get the ticket.
Exactly.
And then when you get off, you present the ticket. They tell you how much you owe.
Well, lo and behold, I get to the toll booth and the guy asks me to pay whatever the ticket cost. I can't remember. It was
woman.
Like $15 or something like that.
It was a woman.
And I remember just being so embarrassed, my face turning red for whatever reason. And you were in the back seat and you yelled, "Looks like the joke's on you, Jimmy."
And how did that make you feel?
I was humiliated. It was the most humiliating moment in my life.
I love that. That's terrific.
It's so memorable.
Welcome back once again to the long road home alone. And more than perhaps ever, it feels like a very long road. I'm Joey Z. I'm here with my co-host, Jimmy Dantes. And Jimmy, I've said it before, but sometimes in times of great strife and adversity, it really clarifies some truths. It is nice to be here with you on this long, long road.
It's nice to be here too. Jimmy Dantes, still alive here for the moment. I tell you what, the last couple months have been a pretty rough, long road and not towards home. Joey and I have been on the run because, as you may recall, Bill Sikorsky was poisoned and put into a coma. And ever since then, we've been getting, well, sort of threatening vibes from the town of Sheboygan, or at least certain characters in it. And to the point where I'm sort of afraid for my own life. And we've kind of been on the run ever since then from an undisclosed location.
Sheboygan is our home, and we have built up quite a following, as we know. We have traditionally had this spot on the airwaves. It's our community. It's our people.
Yes.
And we have also historically had a long working, functional relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. We are reaching you, whoever you may be, wherever you are, and can reach this broadcast from a signal that we have fashioned. We don't know how well it's working, but we know that no matter what, this broadcast has to reach the air. It's just too darn important.
Yes. I think the industry term for it is pirate radio. Basically, the long road home alone has gone rogue. And this is really the only way we could continue this show, given the state of things in Sheboygan. But you know what? I think we just need to keep our head up and remember what we're here for. And let's come around to the topic that we're going to talk about today, which I think we mentioned on our last episode, is going to be Fuller McCallister.
Go easy on the Pepsi.
Go easy on the Pepsi, Fuller McCallister. What do you think about this character?
You know, first off, I just want to say this is a topic that I think our listeners have been champing at the bit. That turn of phrase, you can say it either way. Is that right? Chomping at the bit, champing at the bit.
I think it's chomping at the bit.
Is one English, one American, one's English, British English?
I think one's just a different word altogether.
Yeah, but some say champing at the bit. Is that just a misnomer?
I've never heard that. And I've been on road trips, so I would know if it were a thing.
You've been all around.
Yeah.
That road trips really give us perspective.
Yeah, you get to see a new piece of the world, eat interesting things, drink new beverages, like Pepsi, if you've never had that before.
Pepsi Blue.
Yeah. Physical
journey is a metaphor.
Yeah.
Really. When we're on the road, the sights are always changing. We're always seeing new things. It's really eye-opening. Our listeners have been champing at the bit to hear about this character.
Fuller McCallister.
In particular. It's really something that we've been building up to. He's a really popular character in Home Alone. There are a lot of people who cosplay as Fuller.
Also, just very important to the plot in general.
Incredibly important.
Yeah. The first two times that you see him, the first time you see him, he's in the third shot of the film, and it's looking down on the stairs. Jeff has come down with a toy sword, and Fuller rushes up to meet him with another toy sword. They look like pirate swords, and then they just start, fighting each other with the swords clinging or whatever. Jeff yells, "Take the witches." Do you have any idea what that means? Why would somebody take pirate swords, attack someone with them, and then say, "Take the witches"?
Well, when you're a kid, you've got the toys. You have to use your imagination. You don't always have the exact right toy to fit the game you're playing.
Fuller was probably storming the castle, or Jeff was storming the castle, and Fuller is defending the witches.
Yeah. They didn't have the medieval broadswords. They had the pirate swords. You got to make do.
Yeah.
I mean, the McCallisters are rich, but they haven't... the kids have lots of toys, but they just haven't thought of every eventuality here.
The second time you see him, he's in... What?
Maybe The broadswords are already packed for Paris.
They're not broadswords. They're pirate swords.
I know. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The second time you see Fuller is in the study, and he is working on a puzzle with Brooke. And Tracy comes in and asks him if he knows where the shampoo is. I don't know Tracy that well, but I don't know why Fuller would be, out of all of the people in this house, why is Fuller the one you're going to ask if he knows where the shampoo is?
Do you think she's already asked everybody? She's now just desperate. She's like, I need a shower. I need shampoo. Does somebody know where some shampoo is?
It's possible. I mean, I think the point of these first two scenes with Fuller is just to emphasize how chaotic this house is. There are so many people here. And then on top of that, as soon as Tracy walks away from him, I can't believe that they're in a house full of this many people. There's no shampoo here. It really is just emphasizing there are so many people in this house. So of course a kid could get lost in the shuffle.
15 people in this house.
And only one of them has to make trouble.
And it ain't Fuller. Let me tell you.
Fuller doesn't make trouble. Fuller wets the bed, but he doesn't start trouble.
Fuller McCallister, played by, by the way,
Kieran Culkin.
Academy Award winner.
Golden Globe winner as well now, I think.
Kieran
or was
Culkin.
that no, I think it was an Emmy. Maybe he won both. But yeah, for his role in Succession, he won an award for that as well.
And then he just won his Academy Award for A Real Pain.
Yeah,
the Jesse Eisenberg film.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. It's been a chaotic couple of months. I didn't really get to catch all of the Oscar contenders.
Yeah.
I got to keep my head low.
I'm on the road, and they got rid of all the drive-in theaters a long time ago.
You know, when I was a member of the Academy, they sent us screeners, but easy come, easy go.
Not anymore. Congratulations, Fuller, though.
Congratulations, Fuller. And honestly, to watch this performance, you can see, and I say this objectively, this isn't my opinion, you see an Academy Award winner in the making. No one could argue that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a brilliant performance.
Yeah. What else have you seen Kieran Culkin in?
Nothing.
I've seen him in a few things. Home Alone 2 being one of them.
Never seen it.
Yeah. You know what's funny actually about his role in the first Home Alone? He didn't realize that Macaulay was the star of the film. He just showed up for a few days on set to do those intro scenes, and he knew Macaulay was working on the film, and pretty frequently, but it wasn't until he saw the movie at the premiere that he realized, oh, he's actually like the main character in this movie. That makes sense. That's why he was at work for so long.
He was a little kid then. I mean, because Mac was 9 going on 10 when they were making
10,
that movie.
I think
So
Kieran would have been 6 or 7.
6 or 7. He's a little kid.
Yeah. It was his first movie too. Kieran hadn't been in anything else before Home Alone. And that's
So then was his second movie. This is not true that I haven't seen him in other things. I just know him most from Home Alone. I know most people the most from Home Alone.
Only the Lonely, I think, was
Only
the next
the Lonely
one
was the next one he did.
Another Chris Columbus film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes on to do Home Alone 2. She's All That. He plays a pretty prominent character in She's All That. He's the little brother of Rachel Lee Cook's character.
That's right.
He's always roller skating around the cafeteria or something like that, serving people pizza. Sarah Michelle Gellar gets served pizza.
Huge cast in that movie.
I really have a soft spot for She's All That.
That's one of those 90s movies that they just don't make them quite like that anymore. You've got
Paul Walker's the villain. Also, Matthew Lillard's kind of the villain.
Got Kevin Pollak is the dad.
I really enjoy Kevin Pollak in most things.
Did you see that game show that he did?
No.
Most recently?
No.
He did a game show.
P.S. You have to sleep on the hide-a-bed with Fuller. If he has something to drink, he's gonna wet the bed.
This house is so full of people. It makes me sick. When I grow up and get married, I'm living alone. Did you hear me? I'm living alone. I'm living alone.
Out of all of the McCallister kids, though, all of the peripheral McCallister kids, I think Fuller sticks out for one reason in particular. And you find out why when Kevin comes out of his parents' bedroom. I don't know how to pack a suitcase. He's going to his siblings. Jeff says tough. Megan says tough, calls him a dope or an idiot or whatever. And then Linny comes around and she has the "you're what the French call les incompetents" line. And then she says, P.S. you have to sleep on the hide-a-bed with Fuller. If he has something to drink, he's going to wet the bed. Fuller is a bedwetter. How do you feel about that as a character trait, about bedwetting in general? Do you have any feelings about it?
I think it's good writing.
Yeah.
I think it's good writing because I think it's not so exceptionally rare. I think it's probably a minority, but there are lots of kids until a certain age who wet the bed. Yeah. There's shame around it. I mean, you know, kids don't really talk about it, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think it's really relatable. You present this to a family audience, and the average audience, it's going to mean something. They go, the bedwetter, right?
Yeah.
So also he's one of the youngest kids. So it makes him a sympathetic character.
A little bit. Yeah. I don't know. I'm mixed on him. I was a bedwetter when I was a kid. I wet the bed well beyond when most people do. And it does really suck wetting the bed because I think most kids associate that with, oh, you're a baby because you pee the bed, even though it's not really your fault. You have no control over it. Based on all of the research I've done on it, it's basically just a developmental issue. Eventually, you just grow out of it. And there are treatments for it, but they say because it's a developmental issue, it's really not worth doing the treatments. You kind of just have to stick it out until it ends. And yeah, so there are a lot of stigmas maybe against bedwetters or whatever. But Fuller in particular, I feel sympathetic for him for that reason, because I can relate to that aspect of it. But there's a line when everyone's having pizza. Leslie says, Fuller, go easy on the Pepsi. And Fuller looks straight at Kevin and he has this devilish smile on his face.
He raises his eyebrows at him.
Like,
he goes,
I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that...
I'm gonna pee on you.
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks Fuller isn't the average bedwetter. Fuller is the American Psycho type bedwetter where he weaponizes it. You know, like, and if I
he
just
doesn't
sleep...
actually wet the bed. He just pees in the bed.
Yes.
While he's awake.
What is that face, too? I love it. That's one of my favorite shots in the film. He takes a sip of the Pepsi, and then he does that, like, wide-eyed look at Kevin. Like, yeah, it really is menacing and threatening. And I think
it pushes Kevin over the edge.
It brings home this feeling that Kevin is being downtrodden. I think he's just heard that all of the cheese pizza is gone from Buzz. He looks at Fuller, sees that Fuller's glad that Kevin's going to get peed on. And then you come back to Buzz, who's like, Kevin, get a plate. And then everything explodes from there. And Fuller is a big part of that. I think that's why Fuller is one of my favorite, maybe my favorite character, actually.
Is Fuller your favorite character?
I'm going to go out there.
Tommy gun to your head?
Yeah, Tommy gun to my head. I'm going to say Fuller is my favorite character. I really do love Fuller. And I think Kieran Culkin brings a lot of personality to that character, too.
Now, what kind of name is Fuller, by the way? Have you ever known anyone named Fuller?
No, I know streets that are named Fuller.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a common last name. It's an occupational last name, I believe, but I don't know exactly what they do. Maybe sell Fuller brushes. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Now, all of the other characters in the movie have recognizable names. What is up with Fuller?
Fuller.
I've always wondered this.
I don't really understand.
Is it just a name I don't know? Are people actually named with the first name, the Christian name Fuller?
No, I don't know. It could be a nickname. You know, we've said before, maybe Buzz is a nickname. It's not actually Buzz's name. Maybe his name's Edwin.
Yeah.
Now, maybe there's another historical figure that maybe Frank was enamored with, and he named Fuller after that figure, or Leslie too. You know, both of them have a say in the matter.
I suppose that could be true.
Fuller's also one of the only kids in the Ohio McCallister clan that Frank really acknowledges. It feels very much like Leslie is in charge of everyone, and Frank has a buddy-buddy kind of relationship with Fuller, and it's reinforced a little in the sequel. There's a scene in the sequel where Kevin gets humiliated, and Frank thinks the prank is just hilarious. And as they're all doing sort of the aftermath discussion about what happened, the prank comes up again, and Frank's like, "Oh, it was pretty darn hilarious." And Fuller puts his arm around Frank and they're just both like laughing at what happened to Kevin or whatever. And again, Fuller's drinking another can of Pepsi. Similar.
Wait, he must be drinking Coke.
He's drinking Coke in the second one. Yeah, that's right. In the first one, though, Fuller's one of the only kids that Frank acknowledges. Fuller asks, what time do we got to get up for the airport? And Frank's early.
We're leaving the house at 8 a.m. on the button.
Exactly. And then the next time you see him interact with Fuller, it's at O'Hare. Frank actually carries Fuller all the way from the van to the gate. He's holding him in his arms. And that feels very much like, okay, this is the one kid that I'm responsible for. I don't know. It feels... The relationship between Frank and Fuller feels very much like the relationship I picture between Peter and Buzz. Like, that's the kid that I'm going to buddy up with, and he's going to be my pal, and I'm going to, like, show him the rules of the world or whatever.
Do you think that Fuller knows what's going on at all during any of this? I mean, what does it mean to a child that young to be swept away from his own home in the car, in the family station wagon, taken to the outskirts of Chicago to see his cousins, this chaotic night in this house, only to leave the next day to go to Paris? I mean, what does this mean to Fuller?
I would imagine out of all of the McCallister clan, Fuller's the one who's impacted the least. I mean, you don't really see Kevin and Fuller getting along. Fuller's interacting more with Jeff and the other McCallisters than, it feels like Fuller's got a good relationship with Jeff for whatever reason. Like maybe he's the cool older cousin and Kevin's just the whiny kid who can't do anything for himself. I get the sense Fuller's a little more self-sufficient than Kevin. He feels like, even though he's a few years younger, I sort of get the sense that in the pecking order, Fuller's right there with Kevin, if not a little higher up.
I mean, Kevin is the youngest in his family. Mm-hmm. Is Fuller the youngest?
Yes.
In his family?
Brooke is the next oldest. Yeah. There's another scene, too, in that intro where Fuller and Brooke are just staring at Joe Pesci.
It's a great shot.
Yeah. And they don't say anything in the entire shot. Joe Pesci, Harry, is disguised as a cop and just asking them, you guys going on a family vacation? You got a family reunion? Just asking them
kid?
Yeah, a bunch of questions. They say nothing to him. What do you think that's about? I don't know. Yeah, what do you think?
Mouths agape.
Yeah. Why are they so befuddled or whatever the hell it is with Joe Pesci?
I think it's a funny sight gag. I think it also plays into the very real phenomenon of kids of a certain age before they become old enough to be precocious, if they're that type of kid, who just have literally nothing to say to adults who they don't know.
Okay.
An adult talking to a young child and the child is just absorbing it, but is not appreciating that this is a conversation.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel the social need, right? The social contract isn't established that when someone who you don't know asks you a question, you need to respond.
I've got a bit of a different take on it, and I think it's this idea that kids and sometimes pets can suspect when there's something wrong with a character, and they maybe suspect that something about Joe Pesci isn't right. And there's this kid sense that realizes that that's the case. And Kevin, I think, maybe senses it too. He comes in, Joe Pesci winks at him, and he's like, nah, there's something wrong with that guy. And the same thing happens when he sees him at the OK Plumbing truck when he almost hits him. I think there's this thing in storytelling where kids and pets too sort of have a sixth sense about like bad dudes or something. And I wonder if that scene was tapping into that.
I disagree.
Okay. Well, you.
Top 3 road trip movies. Go.
Thelma and Louise, Rain Man, and maybe Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Wow. I feel like you really missed an opportunity there to list Sideways.
You consider Sideways a road trip? See, I never know, because in Sideways, they go to one specific hotel and they stay there for the entire movie. You consider that a road trip when they just go somewhere, they're away from home. Like Lost in Translation, would you consider that a road trip movie? I mean, no, that's a travel movie.
It's a travel movie.
Yeah.
The distinction is fair.
True Romance, though, okay? He goes from Detroit. Yeah, that's not really a road trip movie either.
True Romance is a little more of a road trip movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
But no, I guess you're right. There's a distinction to be made between like a travel film where like part of the film takes place in location A, then there's a travel component, then the rest of the film takes place in location B.
Yeah.
And I guess a road trip film has some trappings that maybe those a film like Sideways or True Romance doesn't really have, because I think there's that element of like, what's the purpose? Why is a road trip film such a trope? And I think it's like it really helps illustrate these themes of like self-discovery and the nature of change and things like that.
I think a large part of it is that you break away from home, and every day on a road trip, you're seeing something new, and that's drawing something new out of you. And you're often far from home, so you're in a place that's foreign to you, and you're learning something new about the culture that's there. And it's often challenging you to become a stronger person or become a different person or adapt in some way that you wouldn't have thought of if you just stayed home.
It's like I like to say, I may have said it before, but road trips, they give us perspective.
Yeah. Rain Man and Thelma and Louise in particular, I like both of these road trip movies because I feel like the characters go through a strong degree of change over the course of their road trip. In Rain Man, it's basically just Tom Cruise and his brother trying to get home, and Tom Cruise is learning how to be a more caring individual on the way, and like becoming more tolerant of somebody that he's not, who isn't like somebody he's interacted with before. And Thelma and Louise, they're on the run, so they're just constantly in fear, and they're learning and adapting. And you take these two characters who are just so meek and not helpless, but they're not very tough at the beginning of the film, and then by the end they're forced to go through a lot while they're on the road, and they almost become completely different characters by the end. And at one point, Thelma, she just flat out says, "I can't go back anymore. I can't go back to who I was." That's how strong the level of change that can happen when you travel someplace. And I felt it too. Anytime I go someplace and you spend time there and you learn about the culture, you experience things that you just don't in your everyday life. That's the very nature of travel. And they often end up being some of my most memorable experiences because I think I grew the most as a person as a result of them.
Very good.
Do you like any road trip movies? By the way,
thank you for asking.
Sideways actually is one of my favorite films. I just didn't consider it a road trip movie. That's why I didn't put it there. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles actually isn't even one of my favorite films, so that was just kind of there arbitrarily.
Well, it's appropriate to name.
Yeah.
For reasons that we don't need to state here.
Because of John Hughes.
Thanks a lot.
What's your favorite road trip movie?
Favorite road trip movie? I'm going to go ahead and say...
Road Trip.
Road Trip is probably one of the road trip movies, I would say.
That's true. I can't argue with that.
In the repertoire of road trip cinema, I would say that Road Trip sits firmly within that genre. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'll say about that.
I've never actually seen it.
I downloaded it from LimeWire.
Nice.
And that's how I saw it.
I only had Napster.
I really like, and this is a film that you won't have seen, Until the End of the World.
Yep, never heard of it.
It's great. It's 5 hours long.
Oh my God.
Which I know you like.
Yeah. So it was a movie made for people who are on road trips and want to watch a movie that's just not going to end until the trip does, right?
Totally.
What is this? Is this Michael Cimino again?
No, it's Wim Wenders.
Oh, okay. I'm familiar with that name, but not enough.
It's early 90s. William Hurt is the lead in it.
Yeah. Altered States.
I think it's Altered States, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a really terrific film, but I don't think I'll bore you with that.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen California?
I haven't seen
with
California.
A K?
That's the Brad Pitt film, right?
It is, yes. Brad Pitt, Juliette Lewis.
He's in
David Duchovny.
He's in True Romance.
And Michelle Forbes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
TNG. Rollerin.
Rollerin, exactly. I believe this was the first movie that she ever made.
It's been
She was ever in. Now, that is a strange movie. I'm definitely going to call that a road trip movie, though. It's. I mean, that's quintessentially a road trip movie. The whole thing takes place on the road after the setup. Crazy movie. I really think you should see it. That's Dominic Sena. He did Gone in 60 Seconds.
I like that one.
He did Swordfish. I know you really like that one.
Yeah. That was famous for something.
Yeah. Would you consider Forrest Gump a road trip movie?
I don't know. I mean, like maybe a chunk of it, sure. That movie feels like it's about 10 different movies in one. You go to Vietnam, and then it's like,
It's definitely a travel movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel. Do you consider James Bond movies road trip movies? Because going to different countries is heavily an aspect of James Bond films.
Well, and there's a lot of driving in James Bond films. I mean, he loves to be in his Aston Martin.
Yeah.
I think it probably depends on the movie. I would say that maybe if we're talking recent Bond films, I would say maybe Skyfall I would perhaps consider a road trip movie.
Skyfall's a road trip movie, yeah. Because he drives the Aston Martin in that one, and they drive up to Scotland.
Well, and I also think that it's not required, but I think there's like this subset of road trip films where the road trip is the challenge laid in front of the character. Their ultimate goal is to get home.
Yeah.
Right.
Homeward Bound.
That's sort of like a type of road trip film.
Yeah.
And Skyfall's that. I mean, he's trying. He's in his way trying to get home.
Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
That's a road trip film.
Yeah. I've only seen it once or twice. Yeah. That was that road trip era.
Harold and Kumar Go to Guantanamo Bay. I would say maybe I didn't see it, but I'm going to guess maybe is not a road trip film. But I think it's good to litigate these things. Yeah. I think it's really important, especially if we're going to, make sure that we have these airwaves. We're going to break into some airwaves. We're going to get this message out. We're going to talk about Home Alone. We're really going to continue to enlighten and educate the public. I think this is important.
It just occurs to me now that in some ways, Home Alone is a road trip movie. You have Kate trying to get home from Paris, and then she goes on a trip with Gus Polinski. I do feel like those interactions qualify for what a road trip kind of gives you.
This is really profound. I mean, I think that we're never really thinking about Home Alone as a road trip film. But when you put it that way, it's kind of hard to argue that it's not. What do you think that means? I mean, do you think that John Hughes knows that Home Alone is a road trip film? We know that he's got an interest in road trip films.
I do feel like travel in general is kind of a theme in John Hughes films. You get that in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, both of the Home Alone films. And there are a couple others where I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in particular, that's about a character trying to get home, striving to get home.
It's also one of the only pure Thanksgiving films.
It really is. Yeah, you have a few horror films where some evil turkey comes to life and murders people, but
I'm sure you do.
I don't know. I'd rather watch that on Halloween than I would on Thanksgiving.
Right. Well, I think the thing about Christmas films is that they tap into themes that we think about at Christmas time. And similarly, there are themes that I think you can tap into when it comes to the American concept of Thanksgiving. But we don't see a lot of films doing that. So, hats off once again to John Hughes for really doing something, I haven't really doing something with his life. Rest in peace.
I haven't seen an episode of TNG in 2 months.
I'm sorry.
Go. It's scary up there.
Don't be silly. Fuller will be up in a little while.
I don't want a super Fuller. You know about him. He wets the bed. He'll pee all over me. I know it.
Fine. We'll put him somewhere else.
Have you ever seen Home Alone 3?
with the kid from Liar Liar.
Yeah, that's what it ended up being. Yeah, the kid from Liar Liar. And I think he's like fending off against Russian spies or something like that. I'm not really sure.
I've never seen it, and I'll tell you why, because I saw the trailer and it looked like, now this is my, you know, memory is notoriously unreliable, right? Which is why it's not admissible in court.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the trailer and thinking it was too sunny.
Yeah.
It was too bright, and it made me feel depressed. I was like, no, this doesn't, it loses, all the mood has been stripped away. It's just going to fall back heavily on gags. And I was out of it.
That's basically what it is. At least from my memory, I've only seen it once, and it was actually when I was homesick from school one day, which is funny because I think the premise is that the kid is home alone because he's homesick from school.
See, that's just, it's so lame.
Yeah.
I mean, the setup of Home Alone is great, right? The reason why he's home alone is what strengthens the whole premise. If the kid's just home because he's sick, that's just so quotidian. It's just so.
Yeah. And it's also not like, it's not him defending his home. It's him being kind of a nosy neighbor and realizing that these spies are looking at other neighbors and like just checking in on what they're doing and trying to foil their stuff up. Whereas Kevin, I don't know, Kevin's defending his own home. It feels like there's a little more personal stuff at work there. The reason I bring it up, though, is that originally the script was written for Macaulay Culkin to be in Home Alone 3 again. And
but at this point, he's what, probably would be 13,
it came
14 years old.
Yeah, it came out in 96, I think. So that would have been 4 years after Home Alone 2. And I think at that point, he may have even retired from acting for the most part. So
well, now wait. What year? Now, I believe
Richie Rich is 95. That's his last before Party Monster.
And he was 15 in that movie.
Yeah.
So he would have been way too old.
He would have been 16 years old.
That's just silly. A 16-year-old stays home alone all the time. I think by this point they realized it just wasn't going to work for Macaulay anymore. So as a result, there was an early script for Home Alone 3 written that featured Fuller McCallister. And it also featured the Wet Bandits again. It was about Fuller fending off the Wet Bandits at his own home, like sort of taking up the mantle of Kevin McCallister. Now, what have you read the spec script for
I
this?
haven't read the spec script. All I know is that there was a script written and that Kieran Culkin turned it down because he said, this is Macaulay's franchise. It wouldn't make sense. Like he's already put his stamp on it. I can't just come in here and try to usurp
it doesn't make sense. Or unless the Wet Bandits have a vendetta against the entire extended McCallister family now.
Like the film starts with the Wet Bandits having killed all of the Chicago McCallisters, and now they're out for blood and they're going to go to Ohio. And now it's about Fuller defending his Ohio house from the Wet Bandits, who aren't even robbing anymore. They're just straight up murderers.
They're just murderers. They've sort of taken up the South Bend Shovel Slayer mantle.
Yes. Yeah.
What happens, by the way, to the end to the Wet Bandits at the end of Home Alone 2?
They go to jail again.
They go back to jail.
Yeah. They're foiled by the pigeon lady. The cops show up because they're drawn to Central Park by the fireworks, and they're taken back to jail. And they also broke out of jail, so now they have just compounding crimes adding to their sentence. Right. So they're going to be in there for a while unless they break out again during a prison riot.
Right. How did they end up in New York anyway? You know what? Never mind. I don't want to get into this.
They took a fish truck.
Why am I doing this? Why am I asking these questions?
I don't know.
What about Rory Culkin? There's a Culkin that we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah. So that's something we should point out. Macaulay Culkin comes from a family of actors. I think his dad was also an actor. I can't remember if his mom was an actor. His aunt is also an actor. Not only is his aunt also an actress, she is in Die Hard. She plays Holly, Bruce Willis's wife in that movie.
Big character.
Yeah.
Big character, one of the main characters.
Yeah, and when I think of Christmas films, it's basically Home Alone and Die Hard. Those are the only two that ever come to mind. And then I have to just dig into the back of my brain to try to find any other ones. And they also have just very similar themes. It's not about somebody defending their home, but it's about robbers invading and about somebody trying to defend their family.
Now, is her is their aunt McCallister, or is she a green blat?
Her name is Bonnie Bedelia. I don't actually know which side of the family she comes from, but yeah, she is Macaulay, Kieran, and Rory's aunt. Rory, the only thing that he was apparently in Richie Rich, which I haven't seen in years.
I haven't either. I
should give it another watch.
I know that it's really poorly rated, but when it came out, I was certainly the target audience.
When I was a 10-year-old, it fit that same vibe as Blank Check.
Yeah.
You're given like a fortune and you're a kid and you spend it on whatever you want.
It's really tapping into your imagination.
Yeah,
the capitalist imagination for an American kid.
Kids, you know what'll make you happy? When you have enough money that you can buy all of the McDonald's things you want every day.
He has a McDonald's in his house.
He had a McDonald's. I think there was a play place. I mean, not that it mattered. His whole house is a play place, but I think the McDonald's had a play place too. The idea of people that wealthy just eating McDonald's in their basement seems, I don't know, silly to me. But then again, I guess Donald Trump eats McDonald's pretty regularly too, so it's not uncommon.
Well, you know, when you're rich, you can eat whatever you want, and some people love McDonald's.
Yeah. Rory Culkin, the film I know him from, I actually don't remember from Richie Rich. The film I know him from is Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Right. Yeah.
And he basically plays the asthmatic child of Mel Gibson, who's a lapsed Catholic priest. I think he's a lapsed Catholic priest. I don't really understand that. Actually, it doesn't make much sense, because if he's a Catholic priest,
he shouldn't have
a family. He shouldn't be married. But I don't think there are any other denominations that refer to their priest as father. And there's several characters that call him father in that film.
Now, what about Lutherans?
I don't know about Lutherans. They may be where this fits in. Part of me thinks that it's just that M. Night Shyamalan watched films that priests were present in and heard them referred to as father without understanding that was a Catholic thing.
Brentrup. That's what I meant. What did I say?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Or something.
Greenblatt?
Bentrup?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Bentrup.
We've been on the road too long.
Do you get a headache on the road?
I tell you what.
Because I have been getting these wicked headaches since we've been traveling. I don't know. I'm not sleeping all that well. I have nightmares. It's hard to be away from home. It's hard to be away from my job. I never honestly knew how much the industrial laundromat meant to me.
Is it that hard to be away from the industrial laundromat?
It is.
That sense of regularity.
Hard. Yeah. It's really hard. I think it is the sense of regularity. And also there's that really low droning hum there that I think maybe alleviates my headaches.
I don't know. It's been a pretty rough few months. You know, I don't even own a car, and I've been living out of a car for a while. I've been drinking a lot more Pepsi than Coke lately, if you know what I mean.
I do. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, we got to give ourselves a little bit of grace, but we still have a job to do.
Yeah.
And
the waves need to be made on the broadcast of the
sine, the cosine, sine and cosine waves. Is that what it is?
So that is Fuller McCallister, one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in Home Alone. And I like that out of all of the chaos that's going on in the McCallister house, you've got all of these kids, anyone who's not Kevin. I mean, Buzz sticks out in my mind, and the other person is Fuller. Those are the only two of the McCallister kids that make a strong impression in my mind in the intro of Home Alone.
Go easy on the Pepsi.
Don't wet the bed.
And that's really something I think we could take that advice ourselves.
Yeah, and I want to make this a PSA right now too. If you're a parent with bedwetters, if you punish them for bedwetting, it often makes the problem worse. So don't do that.
How could you possibly punish a child for bed? Like, what is that punishment?
I don't know. I mean,
Go to bed?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people punish people for things that they can't control. It happens.
It's true. It's a dirty world.
That's why it's a PSA. That's why I brought it up, because some
Yeah.
people don't know it.
Right.
I don't need you undercutting my messages to the public, okay?
It's like that one. Do you remember when Lloyd Bridges did the voiceover for the children of people who use drugs, children of parents who use drugs, do drugs?
You're thinking of Wilford Brimley and diabetes?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what you're
No.
talking about.
Where'd you learn this? I found this. I've learned it from watching you, all right?
Oh, okay.
I learned it from watching you.
I never did drugs. I didn't watch that commercial, okay?
Children who do drugs have parents who do drugs. That's a PSA. I'm just saying, I'm trying to meet you where you are. But look, it's hard living in a car.
We're getting a message from the producer saying wrap this up, okay? Let's all right, let's do this. Let's get to the outro already.
So thank you everyone who's listening, who can listen in for joining us. I hope that someone in this listening area has been taping this broadcast. And if you have, please send it to
the authorities,
your contacts in Sheboygan. Make sure that the word gets out here.
Yeah.
We're at great personal risk.
Yeah.
We are out here. We're breaking FAA laws.
We have no idea if Bill Sikorsky's alive, if he's dead, if the town of Sheboygan has been nuked.
And if you have any information, please hit our inbox. We would love to know. We're out here, and listen, we're going to try to get these to you as frequently as we can.
We're on the road. This is pirate radio. I mean, this is Mad Max domain, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You should see where we are. Boy.
Yeah.
End of civilization.
You would be proud of us.
Society has crumbled.
We've done quite a lot on the road.
This is a two-way street, folks. Keep us informed. We'll keep you informed. We love you. We're glad we're still here with you. We can't wait to see what comes next. Jimmy, over and out.
All right. I'll see you next time.
And I'll see you before that, too.
Yeah.
Broadcast live from our studio in
Undisclosed location.
The Long Road Home Alone is hosted by Jimmy Dantes and Joey Z and produced by Pat Muldoon. Be sure to tune in next time. Don't forget your reading glasses. And keep the change, you filthy animals.